The beginning of the school year always starts the same. I'm overflowing with motivation. I'm studying 10 plus hours a day. But a few months pass, I start skipping class, missing gym days, binging anime, until finally I'm rotting on my couch just wondering how I'm gonna catch up with everything. Now you're probably thinking, Matty, you just need more self-discipline, or Matty, you should have better work-life balance. Wrong. Well, mostly wrong. Because the secret to unlimited motivation actually has nothing to do with willpower. It's something else entirely. People have been investigating the inner workings of motivation for over a century, but only recently have we explored how it can impact students and learning. Psychologists Richard Ryan and Edward Deci developed self-determination theory to determine how motivation works. It's a framework that suggests motivation lies on a continuum. On one end, motivation is extrinsic or controlled by external factors. This includes rewards like getting good grades, but it also includes mental roadblocks like the fear of failure. On the other end, motivation is intrinsic, or done for the pure love of the activity. As you can imagine, there's a major pitfall with extrinsic motivation. It's not sustainable, because if circumstances change, say it becomes impossible to get an A, and your fear of failure becomes reality, we feel hopeless. And what was once giving us motivation is now draining it. When I think back to school, almost all of my motivation was extrinsic. I studied because I was scared of failing or experiencing the wrath of Asian parents. I was controlled by extrinsic motivation, and because of it, I struggled to sustain extended weeks of study without burning out. But instead, if we cultivate intrinsic motivation, we'll generate limitless motivation for our studies that's driven by our love for learning. Basically, we need to become self-determined. According to self-determination theory, there are 3 psychological conditions required for intrinsic motivation. Number 1 is autonomy. We need to feel like we're in control of our learning and that we set our own goals. When we feel like our actions matter and can lead to real change, we become invested in that process. When I started clinical rotations in med school, the residents always told me to take ownership of the patients that I carried. And I never really understood what that meant until now. I was in charge of seeing my patients, following up with nursing, and coming up with the treatment plans, which of course were vetted by my attending. I wasn't being told what to do, I was given permission to decide what to do. And as a result, I was curious to problem solve and eager to find answers. Having autonomy changed my mindset. I didn't have to learn anything. I chose to learn. So anytime you start to feel overwhelmed because you're so far behind or you have so much studying to do, try this simple mindset practice to regain autonomy. Instead of saying, crap, I have to do this thing, flip it to, I choose to do this thing. Because when we feel like we don't have to do anything, we remove the stress that was causing us to feel overwhelmed. And if we believe that nothing is forcing us to act, that means we're choosing to act. For studying, it also helps to create your own goals. Stop comparing yourself to your friends or to your perfect cousin. They're not in charge of your life, so don't let them determine your motivation. Set a goal that you want to achieve for yourself and take ownership of it. Number 2 is competency, or the need to feel that we can make progress and that we have the skills necessary to learn. If we don't have competency, our efforts feel wasted, which will cause us to burn out and lose motivation. When I was an undergrad, I joined a research lab, and I performed tons of these experiments called Western blots, which take several hours to do. And after weeks of endless experiments, I got really bored of it, and I switched out. And I realize now it was because I didn't get any feedback about what I was doing. Like, I didn't ask my boss if I was doing a good job or if I was even doing it properly. No one told me if the results were meaningful or useful for the project. Like, imagine if your job was to answer thousands of hate emails until the inbox was 0, but you weren't allowed to see how many emails were left. Eventually, you're gonna start wondering, why the hell am I even doing this? So how do we check and assess our competency in a particular subject? Take the time to implement frequent self-assessments and self-reflection. Make sure there are lots of opportunities for feedback and reevaluate how you feel at every step along the way. Like, are you getting more practice problems correct than before? Have your suturing skills improved? Are you even enjoying what you're learning? For longer term goals, like studying for a standardized test or something, don't be afraid to break it up into smaller goals to increase the feedback that you get. And as you accomplish those smaller goals, you'll accrue wins and competence that build intrinsic motivation. Number 3 is relatedness, or the sense of belonging to other people. If we share similar goals, we can use one another for motivation. When I was in college, I didn't spend much time with pre-meds. Most of my friends were engineers or music majors. I guess I just wanted to be a black sheep. And I remember when I was grinding for the MCAT, it was super difficult for me to stay motivated because I had no one to study with. I had no one to vent about Overcame with. And because of this, I felt isolated in my journey. It felt like I was completely alone and insignificant. But once I started medical school, everyone in my class was on the same path. I had a squad of friends who all studied and struggled together, and it was so much more enjoyable to be on a journey with other like-minded people. I'll never underestimate the power of social connection again. Like even now, if Mike wasn't doing YouTube with me, I have no idea if I'd have the motivation to keep going. So find ways to integrate your learning with other people, especially you introvert rookies. I'm calling you out. You need to build a support network of friends, family, and mentors who are on your side and rooting for your success. For starters, you can join our Discord community. We have students from all over the world, and we're all trying to figure out what this life thing is all about. We have group study sessions, focus rooms, we help each other with homework and post memes, and it's a really active community of 3,000 rookies, and still growing. Relatedness is also why we match into clubs at Cajun Koi Academy, to understand ourselves better and connect with like-minded people. As I've been implementing these changes into my life, I've started to realize how important it is to rethink the entire idea of motivation. It's not about having more or less motivation at all. It's about the type of motivation we have. We need sustainable motivation to pursue our goals. Whether we choose to study 10 plus hours a day, or we're working out, or starting a YouTube channel, intrinsic motivation will keep the fire burning longer and brighter.